Good morning. Hello, everyone. Hi, Sana. I want
Hi.
to welcome you all to Getting Personal with Compt. This is our LinkedIn Live chat where we speak with workplace experts committed to building a better, not just employee experience, but a better human experience. So today I'm so thankful that I get to be speaking with Sana Walker. You may know her as Chief Girlfriend at hrgirlfriends.com. Sana, introduce yourself to our audience.
Hi. Well, thank you so much, Lauren. It's a pleasure to be here with you talking. And I'm Sanaa Walker. As Lauren said, I run an amazing community for women in human resources called HR Girlfriends. And we started out in little to no direction, but today we are a thriving, robust community where we support the professional and personal development of the women who go out every day supporting the workforce of companies with as little as 5 employees and as many as 10,000 plus. So we do a lot, but we also support organizations through HR consultancy services. So we provide lots of services to help organizations stay compliant and thrive.
And so now you're also a DEIB expert, which is what I want to dive into a little bit today, especially since yesterday was Equal Pay Day, of course, only for white women. Um, Much further down the calendar, we have Equal Pay Day for employees of color.
Yep.
And I just, I know yesterday was kind of a day to celebrate for women. I didn't really feel that way about it. It was a little bit more triggering than I thought it would be.
You know, it's really interesting because equal pay day is sort of a thorn in my side. As an African American woman who runs her own business, who also is in a position to see salaries and financials of organizations, I have a view that only a small portion of the business world get to see, right? And so I get to see what goes into paying fair salaries or not. And I think about what I used to subscribe to around it being the responsibility of women to be better negotiators. I really did. I thought that it was my responsibility to get all the skills necessary to negotiate. It didn't dawn on me in my early 20s that honestly, it wasn't just on me, that it was the responsibility, probably more so on the employer to stand tall and pay me what was fair for the work. And I think now, as someone who employs others, I can't sleep at night if I'm not having a mutually beneficial relationship with those that are showing up for me every day. It doesn't sit right with me. And even if I get to a place where I am so big, I don't know the first or last names of the people that work for me, because it can get that way, right? We think about these large organizations, you're never too big to know the numbers. The numbers never lie. And that's where it gets really confusing for me. There's enough resources out here for organizations to pay, to understand, are we paying on par? Are we not? If we're not, we should or we shouldn't. If we aren't, how do we get there? But they're not focused on that. And to continue to put the onus on the employee is really misleading and manipulative.
Right. It's interesting. I had a brief conversation with our founder and CEO, Amy Sperling, Compt yesterday. Obviously, we talk about benefits and total compensation all the time within our organization and how important transparency is, not just in pay transparency, but in communicating that as well with your employees. And Amy said to me something that I thought was really interesting, where yes, you can achieve pay equity within your organization at any point in time, but it also doesn't have to mean that you do that at the inception of your organization. You can do that right now. There's no excuse because there is that benchmarking data out there. You can do annual pay audits and ensure that there's no gaps within your organization. Like, it doesn't have to take equal pay day or the pay transparency laws that are now emerging to close the gap.
Absolutely. When I started at the HR consultancy services with HR Girlfriends, I was committed to several lines of service. I thought to myself, if I'm going to go out here and put my entrepreneur cap on, I want to do things that really are impactful. I focus on comp and benefit analyses. And I do that because this is important work. And not enough organizations, when I was sitting in corporate or on W 2 payroll, I didn't sit in those positions with organizations that cared enough to put the money into it. I remember trying to buy a salary survey from one employer who was a $40 million a year government contracting firm. And the salary survey was $750 and the teeth I had to pull. And it was just for one of the regions that we were in. We were in
Mm,
17 states. And so I think about that I had to beg and pardon for $750 to see if we were paying fairly the largest region that we represented, where our headquarters were. And I think, what? But I bet you that if it took that times whatever number to pay the owners fairly, we would have paid that amount of money to the consultant, to the tax consultant, to whoever it would have taken to get it right. And in fact, we did many times, when I do some reflection on different areas and things that came up. And so I know that HR gets a lot put on them. We do,
mhm.
where we can be a dumping ground for the party planning. We can also be the scapegoat for when things don't go well. But I will say this, we have a lot more power and impact than we will give ourselves credit for. And opposition does not mean that we cannot have impact. It's just opposition. And I know we're not all built the same, but we have community. And that's what HR Girlfriends is about, right? It's like get in community and get your wind so we can support you in the right tools and resources, the right verbiage, having the right vendors and other tools so that we can say, listen, employer, here's where the buck stops, right? Like, we can't keep doing this. And I just recently did a talk and I said, look, HR folks, if you think that you're going to leave one employer who, let's say, for instance, is paying bare minimum, not looking at benefits, could care less, but also complaining about talent, and you think your answer, because you've done everything you can, you think the answer is just job hopping, you're only leaving that spot open for the next person. We're
Mhm.
just swapping off now, right? In a while, we're all going to be just, oh, I worked for that person. Oh, I did too. And so here we are exchanging these poor roles with one another, and nothing's happening.
Right.
So I say job hopping can be an option for growth, for opportunity, for any other reason that you want. But I say if it's just because you're not getting the the impact that you're looking for, I say perhaps you haven't done all you can. Perhaps there are other resources. Perhaps you haven't talked to your vendors about what's in their arsenal, the challenges you're having, and see what they can do. What are your other peers and community? What are they doing to challenge that? How do you really solve for those problems? Because equal pay day every year is going to come around, and women are still underpaid. And I don't,
Mhm.
and the irony of all of that women continue to dominate human resources,
Right.
compensation, and benefits. We're still in those areas, and yet we're still underpaid. It
Mhm.
baffles, right?
I know exactly what you're saying. I'm fairly new to the HR world specifically, but in the short time that I've been part of this industry, part of this community, I have seen exactly that scenario play out. And I'm so thankful for communities like HR Girlfriends because I'm seeing the power in bringing all of these minds together to come up with more just actionable things that we can do
Mhm.
to make the workplace a better place for everybody, HR included.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, what kind of conversations are you seeing in HR Girlfriends right now around, you know, pay equity and how that plays into overall approaches in the workplace?
The conversations that I'm seeing are obviously around the pay transparency laws that are happening. Obviously, anytime California steps into the ring, everyone gets scared because
Mhm.
California is pinnacle of employment law.
HR
Um,
Mecca.
I'm telling you, like honestly. And so, now New York's in, and they're second in line to what we call the Mecca, right? Behind California. And so I'm finding that right now I'm doing a lot of comp and bin work.
Mm,
And it's really interesting for this time of year to be doing that type of work for the types of clients I'm doing it for. And I assume it's because, one, a lot of boards for some of these nonprofits I'm working with, and even some of the for profits, they are considering that this is one issue. So they're putting a D, equitable pay, right? How do we get equity? But then also uh, in the community, I'm hearing about how do we win the war on talent, right?
mhm,
With compensation and benefits. And so there's so many things that occur when you better understand where your benchmark is with pay and benefits,
right.
because the information will enlighten you. I mean, when I go into a compensation study, let me tell you, we try to go in and we are looking at your actual competitors, the employers that your employees leave you for, most typically. And we're looking and we follow the laws because there's some strict laws. I can't just call up the place and say, hey, what benefits are you offering or how much are you paying your accountant? There's some laws behind that. But we pay for very, very trusty, reliable resources and studies to get this data. But by the
Mhm,
time we turn over the report to you, I can pull up in the driveway of an employee who's working from home and tell you exactly what that pay should be. How
yeah,
amazing is that? That empowers you as an employer to understand what kind of policy should we have? Should we eventually transition into a pay strategy where we are no longer paying for individuals based on our corporate headquarters? Are we paying for where people live and work? What's
mhm,
our ongoing strategy? Also, does that fall in alignment with what people are saying when they reject our offers? And what is our mid range? Oh my gosh, we were off. Our mid in reality is our bottom or our top. And you'd be surprised to find out when you look at the benefit comparison report. Let me tell you, that in itself just blows people's minds because compensation isn't just about the dollars and cents, right? Say equal pay day. I looked the other day on LinkedIn, and the conversation was around Rosalind. Cannot think of her last name. She's for Walgreens, African American woman. And while her pay was in a graph and it said she made last year in 2020 $3 million. Out of the $17.3 million, only 1.5 million was in salary cash.
where's the rest of it?
Blown away, blown. That's not my world. So I was blown away. How can you get 1.5 salary cash and end up with 17.3? Well, between stocks and other options, but it wasn't all stocks. Stocks were only 8.5 or something of that. There were
Right,
other incentives and benefits that she had between bonusing and other compensation. So, when we think about compensation, we have to think about it bigger than the dollars and cents.
right,
Women are losing out. Think about it. If I am a woman and I want to have a child and I'm using my resources, unlike a man would have to do potentially, I use my resources for fertility, for other
mhm,
things. And if my employer could simply go out potentially and solve that with, I don't know, a fertility benefit,
Hmm.
could save resources. I could then allocate those resources for saving, for wealth building, for generational wealth. I mean, there are a number of things that go into compensation.
Right.
So it's very easy to go tunnel and go, okay, I show up, I work, I get the dollars, it goes into the bank, I pay bills, I put in a savings account. And so I tell people rich benefits
Mm,
matter, which is why in HR Girlfriends, we have a huge focus on our partnerships. I love out of the box benefits, services. And so we're very mindful about who we partner with, but we love to partner with vendors and solution providers that are looking at our society and really solving for problems that employees can really say that's impacting my bottom line, right? And making the difference in the overall compensation conversation. So, for instance, we partnered this year. Our first partnership of the year was with a company called Tutris. Tutris is a childcare provider. And what they do is they go into organizations and they help employers bring to the table a childcare solution. And it is helpful because we haven't solved the childcare problem,
right.
and it brings childcare right on a platform. You can find everything from after school all day, no matter what shift you work, childcare is there. And so, how awesome is that? That an employer can contribute and allow an employee, male or female, right, to
Hmm.
save their dollars towards generational wealth, savings, wealth building,
Right.
etc., because they're contributing. And that's adding to that employee's bottom line. And so I think when we're talking about compensation, let's go broad. Let's
Right.
think about that, right? So I always stress that too.
I like that you're looking at it not just from a compensation perspective, but also from a gender equity perspective as well. Like all of these moving pieces do work together. I had mentioned a data point to you in our email thread that we're 300 years away from gender equity. I don't know about you, but I don't have time for that.
I'm like, are we going to be here in 300 years? Will the earth be here in 300 years? I don't know. You and I won't be here, Lauren.
Mm,
And so, whoever's left behind, I'm not sure if pay equity will even be their primary concern. I don't know. It may be just to stay alive and breathe. Wherever we are, we have to focus on where we are today, right?
mhm.
And so I always believe in doing our part. We all have a lane. And while I can't change the world, I don't throw up my hands because I can't make the entire ocean, right, free of trash. No, I do my part. I pick up what I can. I do this part. So I remember when I started HR Girlfriends, I remember saying, I just want to do all the things that I see in other organizations or in the world around me that could be course corrected. So,
Yeah.
for instance, I remember reading books that said volunteerism for associations like HR Girlfriends and others was diminishing. People had different reasons and why they were connecting themselves to communities and causes, right? And I said, well, that makes perfect sense. But if it wasn't just about connecting to a cause, and oh, by the way, I'm serving women, how could I take this change in our human factoring and impact compensation, equal
Mhm.
pay, etc.? So what I did was I said, I'm not going to ask people to volunteer unless I absolutely have to.
Right.
I like to compensate and pay. So whenever possible, I want to compensate and pay. And when no compensation and pay is available, I am clear that we are either revenue sharing
Mm,
or the relationship is so mutually beneficial that you are best prepared to either sell yourself, sell your product, be on the forefront, because I know that your opportunity to sell yourself, sell your book, sell your skills, you may only have one shot. So
Mm,
that's the lens I go in with when I'm partnering with someone to come speak for us, or just someone to provide a service for us. I'm focused on that.
right. I love that. I think that the way that you're approaching this and encouraging others to do the same is the step in the right direction that we need. And I'm hoping that whoever is watching this and whoever might connect with you afterward is going to join us in that. So I know that that's our time, which is unfortunate because Sana, I could talk to you forever. I feel that way about everybody I talk to
I
on this.
know.
I wanted to say in our last minute here, if people want to reach out, learn more about HR Girlfriends, join the community, how can they do so?
Oh, everything is so easy on our website, and we're definitely mobile friendly. You can go to girlfriends.com and you can check out more about our membership. We also have more information about how we can serve you as the individual HR professional, whether you're just breaking into HR or you're at the senior ranks. We want you in our community, or we want to serve your organization through our HR consultancy services. So if it's HR compliance or compensation and benefits, we're here to serve you.
Fantastic. Sana, thank you so much for your time today. Thank you, everyone, for watching. And I hope you'll tune in next month because we have some more very wonderful workplace experts ahead. Thanks so much, everyone. Bye.
Thanks.